How positive is propaganda in a freedom struggle? In time of war, when truth is so precious, it must be attended by a bodyguard of lies. These were the words of former Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, Winston Churchill. Barely a week after the arrest of Simon Ekpa, the self-proclaimed Prime Minister of Biafra Republic, his media supporters have eagerly engaged in creating digital fabrications that they believe will advance the Biafra cause. A video in which a white female newscaster allegedly reported an update on Simon Ekpa's apprehension is now trending on social media. In the video, the broadcaster addressed Ekpa as Prime Minister of Biafra Republic government in exile. She stated that a detailed report conducted by MTV had disconnected Ekpa with any allegations of terrorism imposed on him by the federal government of Nigeria. However, the video was craftily designed using artificial intelligence and therefore is fake.
Update concerning the Prime Minister of the Biafra Republic, government in exile, Simon Ekpa, following recent developments in Finland. On Thursday, 21st, 2024, Finnish authorities detained Prime Minister Simon Ekpa in Lahti on allegations of public incitement to commit a crime with purported terrorist intent. However, according to a detailed report from MTV Uutiset, Crime Commissioner Otto Hiltunen, who is leading the investigation, clarified that the ongoing inquiry has revealed no reason to suspect any connections to terrorist organizations.
This is not the first time the separatists have employed this tactic. Shortly after Donald Trump emerged as the winner of the 2024 United States presidential election, separatists created an AI video of Trump issuing orders to the Nigerian government against the detention of the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, Nnamdi Kanu. In essence, Trump in the video gave an ultimatum to Tinubu's government to free the IPOB leader. He warned that he would impose sanctions against Nigeria if Tinubu's government did not release Kanu by November 31st.
Today I am calling on the Nigerian government to immediately release Mr. Nnamdi Kanu, who has been detained under circumstances that raise questions of fairness, human rights, and basic justice. Nnamdi Kanu's detention has gone on far too long, and it's time for the Nigerian government to respect the principles of freedom and the rule of law. I have watched this situation closely, and I have seen how it has stirred deep pain, anger, and frustration among many Nigerians who feel that their rights and voices are being suppressed. Now, let me be very clear. If Mr. Kanu is not released by November 31st, 2024, my administration will begin the process of withdrawing medical, financial, and humanitarian aid that we provide to Nigeria.
Unfortunately, despite the clear manipulation of the voices of Trump and the White Lady, many viewers, particularly the millennials, would accept the news piece without question. In other words, they struggle to distinguish between falsehood and truth. But a discerning mind would easily spot the glaring and careless error in the video, recognizing that November consistently has 30 days, not 31. Further, a similar incident had played out when some supporters circulated an alleged Ekpa's tweet. The tweet claimed he had secured a loan with the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank by the urges of the Director General of the World Trade Organization, Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala. But the truth is that at the time when the tweet was in circulation, no trace of it was found on Ekpa's X page. This development triggered the speculation that the tweet might have been fabricated. It could have been the handiwork of enemies who desired to soil the image of the Prime Minister, but it could also have been the shenanigans plotted by Ekpa's supporters, believing that their action would promote the Biafra cause. Whichever was the case, what is certain is that some Biafra separatist groups have over the years relied solely on propaganda without realizing its insidious implications. Propaganda has one major goal: public incitement. It makes the people to revolt, but it does not necessarily address practical, everyday problems of the people afterwards. It stirs emotions, but incapacitates the reason. It employs well-crafted but fallacious logic to make the people believe what is actually false. It reduces the credibility and integrity of its purveyors, making them as mere demagogues. Propaganda is a non-violent but dishonest tactic of social influence, since it can get a whole people to believe that their action is done out of volition, not manipulation. That some people still believe that the former President Muhammadu Buhari of Nigeria died long ago is a glaring testament of the power of propaganda in political affairs. Little wonder Edward Bernays remarked that propaganda is the executive arm of the invisible government. Isn't it time for the separatist groups to look beyond the surface and consider the people at the heart of the struggle? The reason they appear to be losing ground is that they have focused solely on criticizing and slandering the government. They mistakenly believe that the ideal of a Biafra is a distant future, when in reality, it could be driven by both the official government and the freedom fighters in the present. Before Chukwuemeka Odumegwu Ojukwu died, he wrote a book titled Because I Am Involved, published in 1989. In the book, the Igbo leader expressed an account of the foundation or context upon which the civil war erupted. He pinpointed issues of marginalization and exclusion of the Igbos from political and economic decisions of the country. But in the concluding chapters of the book, Ojukwu made a significant transition in his perspective on Biafra. Acknowledging that Biafra was in reality a metaphor for development, Ojukwu said, "All of Nigeria today there is Biafra, but that Biafra is the Biafra of Nigerians and not the Biafra of the Igbos. It is the Biafra of the mind, not the Biafra of the fields." Now, what does this quotation mean? Ojukwu was saying that the natural endowments bestowed on the Igbos, including industry, resilience, and the mineral resources, had been the thread holding Nigeria for a long time. In essence, the overall development of the country is dependent on the empowerment and inclusion of the Biafran territory in governance. On the other hand, the Biafra of the mind and not of the fields entails that the best way to realize the idea of Biafra is not through the barrel of a gun, but by introspection. Make no mistakes, propaganda can be positive. Incontestably, it is an essential element in any true freedom struggle. No political leader, even the most principled, can sway the people without propaganda, as it is the part of the first requisites for social influence. For example, it is a fact that the Southeast has been facing discrimination for years. If this is so, a leader who desires to fight for the Igbo cause must stir people's emotions using pre-existing ideas such as marginalization to get their attention. Nevertheless, freedom acquired through propaganda is often sustained by propaganda. If propaganda were the only tool the separatist leader could use, he might find political freedom in the end, but not a peaceful and moral society. South Sudan is a good example. The youngest country in the world got her independence on 9th July 2011 by means of a referendum in which 98.8% of the people supported the breakaway. Unfortunately, having existed for 13 years, South Sudan has remained the poorest country in Africa, with a GDP per capita of $492, according to 2024 report by Business Day Nigeria. How then can separatist leaders attract the people's voluntary submission beyond the use of propaganda and coercion? In an interview with Newsweek, Kano expressed his belief in the teachings of Mahatma Gandhi and Martin Luther King Jr. He noted, "I hope that what we are looking for can be accomplished peacefully. I am an advocate of passive resistance. Gandhi and Martin Luther King tried it to very good effects. So, Why should it not work in our case? End of quote. It is not within the purview of this piece of writing to discuss violence or non-violence in relation to Biafran separatists, but it is important to allude to Kano's words in order to understand the crux of this piece. Arguably, Gandhi is set a standard for all freedom struggles, wishing to employ non-violence as a tactic. Gandhi held that non-violence should not exist in isolation, but must coexist with what he referred to as satyagraha. The term translates in English as truth force or holding on to truth. Simply, the teaching of satyagraha is that a freedom fighter criticizing the government must also strive to correct the ills of government by immersing himself in the people he is fighting for. For instance, Gandhi was somewhat a wealthy lawyer who could afford any brand of fanciful clothes in town. But in the course of time, he made a significant choice to adopt a simple dhoti and a shawl, aiming to connect with the impoverished people of India. Secondly, Gandhi fought against the caste system, which segregated certain people in Indian culture. He also established a residence he called the ashram. In this house, Gandhi and his followers practiced and promoted the principles of non-violence and self-sufficiency. Gandhi provided Indians with the chance to acquire skills and engage in practical work at the ashram, aiming to reduce their reliance on the British government. One of these significant achievements was encouraging Indians to produce their own clothing using the spinning wheel he introduced. These actions, amongst others, enabled Gandhi to secure unwavering obedience rooted in the people's will, rather than relying solely on the leader's propaganda. Dorothy Day, a vocal critic of the United States government, co-founded the Catholic worker movement in the 1930s to aid the poor. The Guardian approach to freedom struggle is very, very evident. Challenge the government while also support the people. Biafran separatists could greatly impact on Igbos by adopting a similar strategy. The most effective way to assist people is not merely to encourage them to think, but to guide them to think rightly. Propaganda only fuels anger. It can never alleviate hunger.